Shalom, welcome to this show of MTV Jr. brought to you by the greatest show, Baron Hirsch congregation in Memphis, Tennessee. We have a great show for you. I know today is somewhat of a sad day. It is the 9th of Av, it is Tisha B'Av. But we're going to learn about Tisha B'Av so that we know how exactly to have this day perfect. Now, I have to tell you the truth, though. I'm filming this a couple weeks before Tisha B'Av, and secretly in my heart, I hope that by the time Tisha B'Av comes around, Mashiach will be here and we won't have to worry. And I'll have to do this show all over again. But just in case we are using this show, today is Tisha B'Av. Okay, so we are going to first, before, let me tell you who I am. My name is Uri Pilichowski. I'm the host of this show. And let me tell you, this is my family. I'm in the middle. Then next to me in a red skirt is my beautiful wife, Eliza, who is such a Balas Chesed. She's amazing. Then we have Abigail, Tamima, Gila, Naomi, Tova, and Moshe. 6 wonderful children. That's my family. And let me show you where we live. We don't live in Memphis or Los Angeles or New York or on the moon. We live in Eretz Yisrael in a place called, you can see it's written right up there, Mitzvah Yericho. And on a map, it's right outside of Yerushalayim in Eretz Yisrael. You can see the red balloon marks the spot of where we live. And if you look how beautiful it is. This is a picture of Mitzvah Yericho. Look at the mountains and the rolling hills and how beautiful it is here. This is where I live. It's such a special place. I hope one day you'll come visit me here in Mitzvah Yericho. Okay, let me tell you what we're going to do on our show today. Okay, what's on our show? So first of all, you can win raffle tickets. You can win a lot of raffle tickets. Great prizes. Amazing. Win raffle tickets. And then if your raffle ticket is chosen, you can win a prize. Okay. Oh, what? You're not supposed to see that. Okay, hold on. We're not there yet. On our show, we're going to first have a Tisha B'Av story about 2 people called called Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. You'll see it's a good story. It teaches a very important lesson. And I think you'll really like the story. Then we're going to do the Hebrew word of the day. And if you write down the Hebrew word of the day, so you make sure you have a pen and paper, if you write down the Hebrew word of the day and you send it to me, you can get a raffle ticket. I'm going to show you my email address soon, and then you'll be able to win. Then we're going to learn about Tisha B'Av and what happened on Tisha B'Av and why today is such a sad day. Then we're going to play a memory game where I'm going to tell you some things, and if you remember them and write them down and send them to me, you can win a prize. Then we're going to have one last chance to win 2 raffle tickets, and then we're going to end our show, and it'll be a great show. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to the story room, and in the story room, I'm going to tell you a story. So we have to move all the way over there. It is not such a far walk, but we have to get there. And I'm going to tell you this great story. Enjoy. Shalom, I have a story for you. This is a story that ends off in a very sad way. It's not one of these stories that starts off in a sad way and then ends off in a happy way. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a happy ending to the story. But let me tell you what the story is. There was a very wealthy man in Yerushalayim during the times of the Beit HaMikdash, and he was making a wedding for his son. And back then, they would write out invitations by hand, and somebody would go around to each house of the people that was invited, and they would hand in the invitation to the person himself. Well, there were 2 men in Yerushalayim at that time. One was named Kamtza, and one was named Bar Kamtza. Very similar names. The second person just had a Bar Kamtza, a bar in front of his name. So again, Kamtza and Bar Kamtza. Well, the man making the wedding was in a huge fight with one of them. He didn't want him at the wedding, that's for sure. And the other person, he didn't really know so well. He knew him well enough, so he wanted to invite the other person to the wedding, the person he was not in a fight with. But the messenger got it wrong. Instead of inviting Kamtza, he invited Bar Kamtza, who the wealthy man hated, and he really didn't want this person at his wedding. Well, wedding time came, and everybody that was important to Yerushalayim, including the big chachamim, were at this wedding. Everybody came. Everybody wanted to be at this wedding. Everybody except for Kamtza, because he never got an invitation. But even Bar Kamtza, who the man making the wedding hated, was there. Well, the man making the wedding is so happy. His son gets married. And then everybody goes down to eat at the big meal that they had, the big Suda. It was a big simcha, the big wedding that they had. It's a big meal. Everybody's sitting there. The chachamim, the rabbis, are sitting in the front of the room in a very respectable place. And the wealthy man and his friends are sitting in one place. And everybody's sitting around. And the wealthy man decides to go around to his guests to say hello to everybody. Well, he gets over to one table and sees his enemy sitting at the table. And he says, what's he doing here? So he turns to his servant who's next to him and says, what's he doing here? I don't want him there. It's going to ruin my wedding if he's here. I hate him. So the servant said, I don't know, there must have been some mix-up. So the servant goes over to him and says, excuse me, were you invited? He takes out his invitation and says, yes. I was very surprised to be invited because I thought the person making the wedding doesn't like me. But I guess he does because he invited me. Well, the servant goes back and tells the wealthy man who's making the wedding, the servant, he had an invitation. I don't know what happened. He had an invitation. I saw the invitation. It was made out to him. It had his name on it. So there must have been some sort of mix-up. Well, the wealthy man making the wedding said, I don't care. Get him out of here. So the wealthy man himself goes over to him and he says, hey, you, I hate you. You're ruining my son's wedding just by being here. Get out. So he looks at him and he says, you're very loud. It's embarrassing. Could you just let me stay? He says, let you stay at my son's wedding? You who I hate? I'm going to let him stay here? No way, never. So he says, please, everybody's looking at me. It's very embarrassing. Please don't do this. He says, yes. He says, I'll pay for my meal. Let me pay for my meal. So nobody, some people start to look over, start to see what's going on. So he said, no, please. So he says, I don't care if you pay for the meal. Get out. He says, I'll pay for half the wedding. I'll give you enough money that you don't have to pay for half the, I'll pay for half the wedding. Just don't embarrass me. It's so embarrassing. And he says very loudly, he says, I'm not going to save you from being embarrassed. Get out of my wedding. Now everybody's looking over. He's red in the face. He's so embarrassed. So he says, please, I'll pay for the whole wedding. The whole wedding, it'll be worth it for you. Just don't embarrass me anymore. And he looks over at the rabbis to see if they'll help him because this is so bad for him. So the rabbis look at him. They all look down. They don't want to help him. He says, how can the rabbis not help me? He says, I'm not going to say it again. Get out or I'm going to throw you out. So he gets up. The whole wedding's quiet. Everybody's looking at him. He looks over at the rabbis. Please help me. And they don't help. And he's thrown out. He's so embarrassed. He was so upset. He went to the Romans and made up a story about how the Jews at the time of the Beit HaMikdash are going to fight against the Romans. And when the Romans heard about that, they decided to fight against the Jews and destroy the Beit HaMikdash. And in our Gemara, it tells this story and says this is why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, because the man making the wedding didn't save this Jew from being embarrassed. And the Chachamim should have stood up for him, and they should have gone over to the wealthy man and said, hey, you can't do this. You're embarrassing a fellow Jew. But because they didn't say anything, eventually the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. We have to be very careful to make sure that we never embarrass anybody. Shalom. Okay. I hope that you like that story. Hope that was a good story. Let's get back to, hold on. Let's get, I don't know what's going on here. Hold on. Why are we not, sorry, a little technical problem. Okay. Let us get, first of all, let's get our background back so that we could go on to the next part and play the next game. The next game is going to be the Hebrew word of the day. You ready? Here's our Hebrew word of the day. Get ready. It's coming up. Here it is. The Hebrew word of the day. Now write this down, and I'm going to give you my email in a minute, and you can send to me with a prize. It is Aish. Aish means fire. It's a small Hebrew word, just Aleph Shin, Aish, and Aish means fire. Okay, so that is our Hebrew word of the day. Now, to win a raffle ticket with the Hebrew word of the day, just send it. Let me duck down here a little bit. Ooh, thank you. Okay, let's go down and send me an email to this email address and write Hebrew word of the day. My name is whatever your name is, and then say the Hebrew word of the day on today's show was Aish, and you can win a raffle ticket. And with the raffle ticket, you can win a prize. Okay, that is the Hebrew word of the day. You want to see it again? Fine, I'll show it to you one more time, but that's it then. It is Aish. Aish means fire. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to learn about Tisha B'Av. I'm going to have pictures for you and all different things. Okay, so here we go. We have to go back to the story room. Okay, so let's go back to the story room here. And hold on. Okay, there we go. We're just about ready. And okay, we are all set. Here you go. Enjoy, or learn a lot, I should say, from this video. Hello, today we're going to learn about a very sad day. In fact, the saddest day of the entire year. This is the 9th of Av, what we call Tish'a, which means the 9th of Av. Av is a month. It's the month that we're in now. Today is the 9th of Av. Today is Tisha B'Av. It is the saddest day. And today, what we're going to learn about is all the things that happened on the 9th of Av that make it such a sad day. Okay, we're going to go through them one by one. And you might see today that your parents aren't sitting on chairs, that they didn't shower this morning, that they're not wearing perfume or cologne, that they're not eating because it's a fast day, because it's such a sad day. And you might notice that they went to shul for a very long time, and maybe you went to shul and saw, and there are special tefillot today. Today's a very sad day. One day it's going to be a very happy day when Mashiach comes. But until then, because of the sad things that we're going to learn about now, it is a very, very sad day. Okay, let's learn about the 9th of Av. So, the first thing that happened on the 9th of Av, the first bad thing was Moshe Rabbeinu. You probably know this story. Moshe Rabbeinu sent 12 spies to Eretz Yisrael before the Jewish people got to Eretz Yisrael. This is after they were slaves in Egypt. They walked through the desert for 40 years, and then they got up to the border of Eretz Yisrael. And they knew, Bnei Israel knew, that Hashem was going to tell them to go into Eretz Yisrael and have a war with the people that lived there so that they could take the land. Now, Hashem had promised them the land, and it was their land, but these people were going to try to stop them. So Bnei Israel came to Moshe and said, let's send spies so that we'll know how to best fight the war. Because the spies will go and see which is the best road to take. How could they surprise the enemy? Where does the enemy have their soldiers? All things that they needed to know to go to war. And Moshe knew that Hashem was going to fight for them, and they didn't really need to send spies. But Moshe didn't want to upset the people, so he said, okay, we'll send spies. He sent 12 spies, one from every single Shevet. But the spies came back, and 10 of them said, this land has giants living in it. This is not a good land for us. It's very hard for us to conquer, and Hashem's not going to be able to help us. And that was a very bad thing to say. And the people believed the 10 spies, even though 2 of the spies, Yoshua and Kalev, said that, no, we'll be able to defeat them because Hashem is going to help us. Well, that wasn't enough. And the people believed the spies and said, we don't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. They weren't saying really anything bad about Eretz Yisrael.
I heard you.
That Hashem couldn't help them. You can't say that because Hashem can do whatever Hashem wants, even defeat a very powerful army. Well, that when the spies came back and told Bnei Israel and they believed them, that happened on the 9th of Av. That happened on Tisha B'Av. So that was the first thing, the first bad thing that happened to Bnei Israel on the 9th of Av. And that's the first thing he said, why we're very sad is because the spies came back with a bad report about Eretz Yisrael and about Hashem that day. Well, the second thing that we learn about is the first Beit HaMikdash being destroyed. The Beit HaMikdash, this one that we see here, was built by Shlomo HaMelech, and it was in Yerushalayim on a mountain called Har Bayit. It was the most important building that we had. In this building, we would offer korbanot. If you can see on the mizbeach, all the way up with the smoke that's coming out of it, and the Kohen Gadol would go into the Kodesh Kodashim. And this is where the Sanhedrin, which were the 71 biggest Talmidei Chachamim, the biggest rabbis, sat, and they would tell people what the halacha was, and they would listen to different cases and explain. And this is where Bnei Israel would go on the Chagim 3 times a year, on Sukkot, on Pesach, and Shavuot. All of Bnei Israel would come to the Beit HaMikdash, and this is where they would be. They would be here in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, David HaMelech wanted to build the first Beit HaMikdash, but Hashem wouldn't let him because Hashem wanted the Beit HaMikdash to be built by somebody who never fought a war. Well, his son Shlomo never fought a war. So what David HaMelech did was, David HaMelech gathered all the material for the Beit HaMikdash, and then he left it for his son Shlomo. And when David died, Shlomo HaMelech came along and built the first Beit HaMikdash, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Well, unfortunately, Bnei Israel, about 400 years later, Bnei Israel didn't listen to Hashem. They didn't do all the mitzvot, they didn't study enough Torah, and they were mean to each other. And because of that, Hashem said, you don't deserve to have a Beit HaMikdash. So somebody called Nebuchadnezzar, who was the head of a country called Bavel, came in and destroyed the Beit HaMikdash and sent all the Jews out of Eretz Yisrael, leaving only a very few amount of Jews in Eretz Yisrael. That's the second bad thing that happened on the 9th of Av, on Tisha B'Av. The next thing is, on the same exact day, when the Jews came back from Bavel, after having been sent there by Nebuchadnezzar, the Jews came back 70 years later, and 2 people, Ezra and Nehemiah, built another Beit HaMikdash, the second Beit HaMikdash. And this Beit HaMikdash stood for 400 years. For 400 years, nobody touched the Beit HaMikdash. I mean, people touched the Beit HaMikdash, but nobody did anything bad to the Beit HaMikdash. They were able, well, except for the Yevanim in the Hanukkah story, if you remember. But the Beit HaMikdash stood for 400 years, and then Bnei Israel, again, they didn't listen to Hashem. What happened was that they were mean to each other. They didn't keep Shabbat the way they were supposed to. They didn't learn Torah the way they were supposed to. And they didn't even recognize that the Torah was from Hashem. And then Hashem sent the Romans from Rome, to come and destroy the second Beit HaMikdash and take all of the Jews out. Now, after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, there were people called, the Jews tried to rebel against the Romans. And the leader was somebody named Bar Kokhba. And Bar Kokhba he got a lot of Jews together, and he wanted all the Jews to fight against the Romans and throw them out of Eretz Yisrael. And then he could rebuild the Beit HaMikdash that they just destroyed. So Bar Kokhba was a very strong person. In fact, Rabbi Akiva, who we've learned about before, Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kokhba was Mashiach. But it didn't help. The Romans defeated Bar Kokhba, and they killed Bar Kokhba, and they killed 500,000 Jews. 500,000 Jews in a city called Beitar. In a city called Beitar, they defeated 500,000 Jews. They killed them, and the Jewish rebellion failed. And that got the Romans even angrier than they ever were before. So Bar Kokhba, unfortunately, his rebellion failed, and that happened on the 9th of Av, was when the Romans defeated Bar Kokhba. Okay. The next thing that happened was that you see the Beit HaMikdash here, and this is the Beit HaMikdash, and it had walls all around it. One of those walls was the Kotel, and this was on the mountain. So the Romans had come in and they had destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, the building itself that's right here. But all of these walls stayed, and the Har Bayit was here. So the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. There was like rocks all around. But the Romans, that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to show how strong they were. So they came in and they flattened what's called plowed. They flattened the entire top of the mountain so that nobody would ever see a Beit HaMikdash there. No one would say, oh, those rocks, those are from the Beit HaMikdash. They flattened the entire top of the mountain. And that was a really sad thing that happened because Bnei Israel stood and looked and watched as the Temple Mount, Har Bayit, was flattened. This mountain was flattened. And it was a very sad day. And that also happened on Tisha B'Av. Now, since that time, many other bad things have happened on Tisha B'Av. There's been a lot of Jews that have come from different countries all over the world, and the countries have thrown them out. A lot of bad things keep happening on Tisha B'Av, including a couple of years ago, Jews made a horrible mistake. They said that Jews shouldn't live in certain parts of Israel. And they got the army, like you see here, this is the Jewish police officers, and they had Jewish soldiers, and they pulled people. You can see this is a Jew being pulled out of their house because they said that's it in a place called Gaza, or in English, Gaza. And that also happened right as Tisha B'Av ended. So Tisha B'Av is a very, very sad day for the Jewish people. And hopefully Mashiach will come and we will never have another sad Tisha B'Av. Instead, we will have happy Tisha B'Av. Okay, that was a great, great, great story. Okay, let us now go to our next part where we are going to play a game. Okay, so we have to get our prize backdrop back. Get out your pen and paper. I'm going to tell you 5 things, and then if you write the 5 things down and email them right here, you could win a prize. Okay, here we go. You ready? The first thing is Kamtza, from our story. Second, Tisha B'Av. Third, spies. Fourth, Ezra. And the 5th is the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, send those in and you can win a prize. And here's one more chance to win one more prize. Here we go. You ready? It is, what's this week's Parsha? If you send me this week's Parsha, you can win 2 raffle tickets, which makes the chance of getting a prize so much better. Don't forget, if you go to Shul, you can get the fun letter. Okay, you can go get the fun letter. That is exciting. And then you can win prizes, and there's games, Divrei Torah, even jokes. See, it says jokes right there. Okay, shalom, everybody. I will see you next week. Let us hope that we have better times in the future.